And it's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and you're listening to the 802 Cup Series podcast. We're live on Twitch right now. We'll be uploaded to YouTube later on, and then tomorrow after the coffee kicks in, we'll take the audio and upload that and the video to Anchor, and then it will go out to all your favorite podcasting platforms. We are on Apple Podcast, Amazon. Oh, what else? Just about all of them. Pocket Caster, the big ones, the little ones, about 24 different ones. And you can catch us on Twitch TV/Greg Dreiss live right now. And it will also be up there for 2 weeks. And that will live in infamy on YouTube. And the audio will be up there forever on your favorite podcasting platform. The 82 Cup Series, we race on iRacing on Sunday nights at 6:45. And then we drop the green about 5 minutes after 7. Not recruiting anymore for this year as we're coming into playoff season, but if you want to join us, we will be recruiting after the season's over. We're going to do some type of summer program, kind of more laid back before we hit into the fall season. So if you're interested, we run fixed set cup cars on Sunday evenings. You can look us up on iRacing. Just go to iRacing Leagues, look up 802 Cup Series, hit join. We'll send you an invitation and check out your numbers. And if it works, you're welcome to race with us. Big thanks going out every week to Riptide Radio. Jeff Barefoot, driver of the number 9, is kind enough to throw up a $5 gift certificate to Riptide Radio, an online radio station where 365 days a year you can listen to Carolina Shag, otherwise known as Carolina Beach Music. What we do here every week is we review last week's race, all the data, top finishers, point standings, and we do a preview of the upcoming race. This week will be at Darlington. We'll talk about the weather, the car setups, lap counts, competition caution. We'll have a guest segment. We have a special guest tonight from the 802 Cup Series. Any league news, which there's nothing going on right now, but we start our playoffs after this week. And we talk about upcoming themes, like this weekend is 1999 Throwback Weekend, rules and updates, etc. And as always, I'd like to say we have a special guest, because everybody that comes on this show is special. I'd like to introduce Larry Murphy. He's the driver of car number 3. He won at Atlanta on Sunday night, and he just joined a new team that was formed on our league, the Piston Broke Motorsports. And I got their logo up there, and that's a great name. Larry, good evening. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, Greg. How are you?
Not too bad. So you had a big race there Sunday night, huh?
Yeah. The new Atlanta is like a Daytona condensed. You got all the drafting, you got all the chaos, but you don't have the room to avoid. And I definitely was worried that it was just going to be a wreck fest, but after we got spread out, it was actually a pretty clean race.
Well, the way Rob and the other guys were talking, some of the top drivers, and I always said, even back in the Joe Sixpack Racing days, the guys who are winning are the ones who are practicing. And I can tell you right now that I'm a victim of that, because even though I never won much, I always used to be pretty close to top 10, and because I practiced three nights a week. We had our team practice. I don't practice much this year because I've got a lot of other stuff going on, so you can see I'm always near the back of the pack. I get up front for a couple laps, which suits me fine, and then I settle in the back. But the way Rob was talking, as you know, on our Discord, they were saying the 7 cars, they couldn't get past 85 laps without wrecking. So what do you think happened Sunday night, where for Atlanta it was a pretty clean race?
Well, I was one of the 7 he was talking about, and I really think that we were all more focused in that practice race on trying to get to the lead, trying to push the boundaries. I don't think we were really trying to settle in during that. And during the actual race on Sunday, you saw different strategies. You saw some fall to the back.
Yep.
You saw people like, me, Chris Max, Jason Wiley, and John Buell all fighting for the final transfer spot.
Yep.
You saw like Max and John push really early. You saw people like Jason, he kind of just hung around 4th. I hung around with him for a while. Once it got chaotic, I kind of fell back. And I think during that practice session, man, there's like you said, it was only 7 of us, but we were running 2x2 and 3 wide. I just don't think we were focused on running behind each other. We were more focused on seeing how you pass, where you could pass. I think there's just a different mindset.
Yeah, well, it's a practice race, so it's like the pre-race practice where you can go out there and bang a few more doors and turn a few more cars around and not have any repercussions from it.
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of what I think we were doing because me and Brandon Redford swapped, if you call it a slider, on asphalt. And I mean, 10 times during that practice race, I was finding ways to set him up, finding ways to get a run on him. We were seeing where the car was happy, where it wasn't happy, stuff like that. And then, Sunday, it was all about let's just try to survive, stay to the end. And it just seemed like you had some people that were really aggressive, some that weren't, and some that couldn't hold a line, some that could, and it still made for chaos. But once we got away from each other, everybody got the idea. Let's just make it to the end, and that made for boring racing for half the race, but it let everybody settle in and kind of regroup and prioritize. Is it important to go or is it important to wait?
Yeah, well, it's kind of it's a thin line you cross there between racing too clean and being boring, or having a wreck fest and being bored traveling under yellow for half the race.
It really is, and trust me, as a competitor, I would much rather have a little bit of boredom from us running in a tight pack, which is, as you know, if you're in the car, it's not boring. You're still dragging the brake, letting off. It's hectic, but
it is
to watch. That may look boring. Everybody riding in line, but it sets up for the ending, which is even more exciting than the first 3/4 of the race. So I would rather it be that way than, like you said, than have caution after caution and just never get to really race.
Exactly. Did you find pit road a little difficult to come down off the track and get on at a normal compared to like other tracks? Because I found it was like kind of like almost like hanging a hard left.
I didn't have a problem. I actually spun coming on the pit road under a caution once, but that was because I had front end damage.
Okay.
I went to get downshift and the car was all over. The front end was all over the place, and then when I went to downshift, it just was not happy. But I didn't have a problem with it. Now I could see where under green, if you were coming full force, oh yeah, I could definitely see because that apron is really hairy, and then it's such a slow pit road speed for such a fast track. It just,
that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was talking more under a green flag caution than a yellow. My problem is since I don't have a lot of time during the week right now to race the track, is actually finding pit road. So I've got a screen map, an overlay, and then what I do when I'm practicing is I pick a turnoff point, and then I take like a little piece of tape and put it right across the overlay. So when I see I'm coming around turn 4, and I can see where that overlay is, and that piece of tape on the screen, that's kind of where I picked that up, because I picked that one up a couple weeks ago at one of the races, because I just had no idea where pit road was, because by the time I got by it, it was too late.
Well, if you thought that was bad, then you better get to practice at Darlington, because I normally don't get to practice much during the week. I may get to run the Thursday night practice race, but as far as practicing by myself, I don't really get a chance. Now, this week, I'm practicing more because Darlington is very important for me to get in the playoffs, and it's such a treacherous track. But I'm going to tell you, they have, not only is their banking really hard to get off of at speed, but you talk about hanging a hard left. It's like a single car entrance. Like if you try to go in there 2x2, you're not going to make it. And they have a commitment cone. So
that's right.
I mean, it's going to be really. I guarantee if you see green flag pit stops, you're going to see multiple people miss pit road and or wreck coming to pit road.
Exactly. Oh, so you and John Bewley, you're tied for P7 right now in the standings, I see.
Yes, sir.
And you both.
I thought I'd get a little separation from him, but he rebounded really well, and Chris Max did too. And Jason kind of got the raw end of that deal. He got bundled up when on that no-go start, and he went from running third to running like 15th. So he's 3 points behind us. Max is 2 points ahead of me, and me and John are tied, but hopefully we can separate that this weekend, and hopefully me and my teammate Jason Wiley can get up there.
Yeah, so between you guys there, it's like 5 points between Jason Wiley and Chris Max, and not too much further up is Johnny Barker. He's in P5. He's 12 points ahead of Chris there.
Yeah, well, as you know, man, Johnny all year long has been really the class of the field as far as speed goes.
Yeah.
The guy has the same luck I had at the beginning of the year where,
Yep.
Start of the year, man, I was fast everywhere we went.
Yeah.
I got wrecked every time. And 90% of the time, it was no fault of my own. It was just someone wrecking and I got caught up in it.
Yep.
That's Johnny's luck. Johnny's lost. He's like the Dale Senior of the league because he's lost the race every which way you can. And once he gets on it, man, I think that you'll see him rip off win after win. Hopefully, he doesn't get hot during the playoffs. So.
No, he's a good guy, and he's a good driver. He was racing with us a couple of leagues ago. I think there's a core bunch of us, 6 or 7 of us that have been racing. Well, there's 3 or 4 of us, 3 definitely, 4 that I can think of have been probably racing for the last 3 years, and then add in Barker and Jeff Barefoot and 1 or 2 others that have been together with us for about going on 2 years now, or a year and a half. So there's a good core bunch of guys that have been there for quite a while now.
Yeah, my teammate Jason Wiley, he said he's been with y'all for I think 2-3 years now.
Okay.
I know he ran last season with y'all, and he's had some dealings. And I know my other teammate now, Brandon Gerard, he ran the Dirt Series with y'all. So I know that this is my first year running anything with any of y'all because I took about a 2-year break off of iRacing. So.
Oh, no kidding. Because usually a lot of people that we talk to on the show here are COVID racers. They got on during COVID. So tell me when you first started getting into racing, whether it be sim racing or asphalt live or dirt live, and what your favorite series was when you first started.
Yeah, so I grew up about 20 minutes outside of Pensacola. Five Flags Speedway, home of the Snowball Derby, is my home track. But my dad is funny. My dad has only ever raced asphalt at Five Flags. He ran Super Stocks, which is now the Outlaw late models. Okay. And he dominated for years. Never could run a full season due to funding, but he built his own cars and, just absolutely dominated. And then it's funny, you race in Pensacola on asphalt, but we lived a half mile from a dirt track. And I used to love going. Every chance I got, I went. My uncle raced out there years ago. My cousins raced out there. And so as I got older, I worked on my dad's cars. We built cars for other people. We drove them for other people. And I kept wanting to get in one. And I had raced like quads and stuff like that. And he would never commit to me being in a car. So when I got to be 19, I went and bought my own car. I bought a dirt street stock and did it all on my own and didn't really know what I was doing. Found success early, won my first year out, and really just fell in love. And at the end of that year, I was actually running for a championship, and I flipped end over end, and
oh my gosh,
thought the car was totaled. Used 2 tractors to load it up on a trailer. It wouldn't roll. We put it on the trailer, lifted it up. We actually got the car rolling with the frame still bent. Got it rolling, had it back out the next Saturday, drove to third with the frame bent, and the gearbox started going out. So I parked it, took it to the frame shop, got it straightened, come back out, won, and then at the end of the year, we had 3 races left. I got hit in the driver door so hard it broke the frame, broke my arm, broke my leg.
Oh, no.
Really just, it ripped the Kirky seat. I got hit a ton. So
wow.
I wound up parking the car, stripping it to where it fit on an 8x10 or a 6x10 utility trailer. Took it to the dump. Bought an open wheel modified. Never even ran it. Sold all of it.
Yeah.
Bought my son a flat track racing dirt track go-kart. And we started him off at 7.
Wow.
He started winning pretty early, so we moved to Georgia a few years ago from Florida, and the competition level here is way higher. So we bought him all new stuff. He actually qualified for nationals.
That's cool.
He was 13 running with adults and kids, and he won the track championship at Sonoya in the go-kart, finished 3rd in the adult championship, and he qualified for nationals, but COVID shut us down. So we bought iRacing as soon as COVID started for him to practice and stay loose. And we sold all the go-kart stuff, bought him a dirt late model, a 602, built it during COVID. Well, none of the tracks around here were running. He didn't really care for the iRacing because he would run well and someone would dump him or something like that. He got frustrated with it. So I was like, I'll try it. Well, I tried it and had some fun with it. Once they opened everything back up, we were planning on going racing, so I sold everything. I was like, let's get back to the real stuff. And I've been wanting it back ever since. Had good buddies that, I took straight away to the dirt stuff. My brother, Chris Ritchie, he's my stepbrother, the one that was racing with us this year. Him and I, he taught me, he didn't like dirt, he liked asphalt stuff. So he taught me to join the asphalt league 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. Did really well. And so when I decided I was going to get back into it this year, I talked him into getting back into it. Neither one of us really have a lot of time, but I run dirt with my buddies from around here that actually race in real life. And then Chris has never raced anything real life. He's run just iRacing. So when we joined this league, just looking for one for us to have something to do on Sunday nights and talk to each other. He lives in South Carolina. I live in Georgia. And so we did that, and he just recently moved. He's got a ton of stuff going on, so he stole his setup. He just couldn't commit to it like he could 2 years ago. And I contemplated selling mine just because he wasn't in it anymore, but I really started getting more into the league as far as the processes and the competition. I always loved it, but I kept getting wrecked every week, and I was like, man, I just put in this effort, and it's not showing. And then things started getting better and better, and I started getting a little more time to spend on it. And now I'm just fighting and clawing, trying to make the playoffs so I can try to compete for a championship. So
gotcha. Do you find the dirt racing and iRacing pretty realistic?
I do. The only thing I would say is, like, on the dirt side here, you're using more momentum, whereas in real life you do too, but in real life you use the brakes more. That's the only difference I really see. In real life, you're going to use the brakes to slow the car up before you pitch it in the corner, whereas on here, you're just throwing it in with the throttle. You don't really use the brakes as much. You do some, but I really enjoy the dirt racing. I love that the track slicks off. It makes it really difficult. And to me, it's one of the hardest forms of racing. And the supers they're ungodly. They're a handful.
Yeah, I don't know much about dirt racing. I mean, I know very little about asphalt to begin with. As far as I'm just a racing fan. We go to a lot of we got a bunch of tracks around us here. I live about an hour from Lime Rock, 2.5 from Pocono, 4 from New Hampshire, about 4.5 from Watkins Glen, and Stafford over in Connecticut's about 2 hours away. So there's a lot of tracks around, a lot of dirt tracks. Just fun to go to. And I was amazed the first time I did dirt on iRacing. I said, wow, what do you call the track changes? Like you said, it slicks out, and the bumper or whatever at the top changes. That was a programming miracle as far as I'm concerned to get that to work right.
Man, it's unreal. And I mean, like, your tire fall off is real because you can go practice, turn 10 laps, and go back in the pits to get new tires and then see how fast you run. It does make a difference. And, like, that's the thing about dirt is as opposed to asphalt. Like, what I've noticed is asphalt, the only thing that's really going to help you is either cautions to let the tires cool down and kind of revive them, or the temperature drops, track cools down, or it gets hot and it slicks off. Dirt, you can take a junk car, find the track can come to you, or you could drive a different line because of cushion forms. Like the dirt, there's so much more to it, I feel. Like it puts it more in the driver's hands. You can search around for speed. You can on asphalt too, but you're kind of limited because if you run high, you're burning your tires up. You run low, you may be sliding. I mean, it's dirt. You have a lot more that can go your way. Whereas asphalt, you kind of got what you got, and you just got to figure out how to make it work. And so dirt's harder per se to drive consistently because the track does change. But asphalt to me is harder to find the speed and keep it.
Got it. So what's your favorite series in real life racing and your favorite driver?
It's a toss up, man, because I really love the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. Jonathan Davenport is by far the man. I've always been a big fan of his, but also the Southern Super Series. Bubba Pollard, I've watched him for years. We're actually about the same age. We actually met him because his family runs Sonoya. He was amazing to my son. He was very nice to me. I've met him a few times over the years, and he pretty much calls Five Flags Speedway Pensacola home, even though he lives in Georgia.
Yeah.
But he's dominated down there, and so those would be my two favorite. I'd watch them all day, every day if I could. But those are my two favorite series: Lucas Oil Late Model on Dirt and Southern Super Series down that way because they run the lower states. They run the Georgia, I think they run Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida tracks.
Cool. So is your son racing this year?
No, sir. So we built the dirt late model. COVID still had everything shut down. We couldn't test. We had a hard time getting parts. So we changed directions. He was so busy he's in honors classes at school. Then he also he was going into high school, playing high school football.
Yeah.
He's playing JV and varsity as a freshman both ways. So we wound up just selling everything and just focused more on hunting and fishing and stuff like that.
Oh, there you go.
On the weekends when we had time. So he's watched some of our races and stuff like that, and he misses it sometimes, but he's really busy with school and stuff. He's taking college courses now along with high school, so he's just too busy. Now, maybe once he graduates, maybe it'll be something he'll want to pursue again.
Now, fishing, what do you like to fish for?
Bass. I love freshwater. Even though I grew up down there by saltwater, Gulf of Mexico, it's cool, but the rivers and lakes, man, is where it's at. I love bass fishing, but around me we have West Point Lake, which is really good for striper. So we'll do that, but I really enjoy catfishing and bass fishing.
Right up my alley. I live about a half a mile from the Hudson River, and we get the striper run every spring. And I'm not sure there might be a smaller one in the fall. No, in the spring, and it's amazing the boats out there on the river on Saturday mornings when I used to get on my way to work, watching all them. And we live in a private lake community. Okay, the rich people live on the lake, and those of us that live off the lake, we mow their lawns. So, but we got one of the best bass fishing lakes up here in New York, and I know down where you are, they're probably a lot bigger because it's warmer. But up here, we've got some nice 4 and 5 pound largemouth. Smallmouth are hitting like crazy on our lake, but nothing was better than the first Saturday in June on the bass fishing tournaments, getting up with my kid and going out with our little floating bathtub, I called it, with a 4.5 horsepower motor and then an electric trolling motor, and just going out for 6 hours and seeing how many fish we could catch. It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. That's like down here we do a lot more hunting than we do fishing. But I just bought a boat about a month ago and use it for duck hunting, and we're going to use it for fishing when the weather cooperates. We got it raining like crazy here, but I'm waiting to take my daughters out and my wife. We love fishing. We love just being on the water.
On the water, yep.
We prefer freshwater, even though, like I said, we grew up down there with saltwater. The rivers in Florida and the lakes don't get the credit they deserve. They're beautiful. They're about 70 degrees year round.
Oh, wow.
The rivers and lakes are actually better than the beaches, in my opinion. So we go down to Florida some still, see family and stuff, but we're ready to hit the lake and go fishing, and we really enjoy it. Like I said, I don't care what we're fishing for, man. Anytime we can be out there and just ride around and have a good time.
Exactly.
That's what's up.
What's a good size largemouth down there?
Well, I mean, 6 is pretty good. You get into, some pretty good monsters, you'll find 8 to 10.
Wow.
But 7, 8 pounder is not that rare. 10's pretty rare. That's like huge. But they 6 to 8, I think, is pretty good.
They start getting kind of ugly when they get that big, don't they?
Hey, you're so excited about catching one that big. I don't care what it looks like. You see grown men freaking out over an 8 to 10 pound bass. I caught a 7 pounder today. I'd be happy.
Yeah. The biggest one I caught on our lake up here was, I think, just under 5 pounds, and I was dragging a big rubber worm across the bottom with, I think, either a quarter ounce or half ounce weight, and that thing hit, and it was just like, oh my gosh, that was incredible. I had like 3 other people watching me, and I'm like, yeah, it's the biggest fish I ever caught in here. So it was fun. And then catfishing. There was a stream, or where I grew up down in Hyde Park, about an hour south of where I am now. There was this old wooden bridge, and we'd go out on summer nights, bring a chase lounge, a radio, and drinking age was 18. We were 16, so we kind of snuck them in and just put the radio on and throw the lines out and just wait for that line to go out and catch catfish and eel all night long. And when you get an eel on the line, try to take them off, forget it. They wrap right around you like a boa constrictor, but it's just so much fun. And of course,
we dealt with the same thing, man. The eel, like you said, we used to catch them all the time because we'd go to like the Everglades and stuff, and we'd go out all night. That time, and my parents had a small bass tracker, and we had the radio on, and man, we'd catch catfish left and right, and every other one would be an eel. And like you said, most of the time we cut the line because they were just so ridiculous. They wouldn't hold still to let you get them off. I mean, you almost had to just cut the line unless you were running out of tackle because they're such a pain to get off.
Yeah, and then trying to
it's just something fun about it, man.
Yeah, and then trying to clean that ick off you the next day. It doesn't go away.
No, it does not. And you can dip your hands in the water. You can do whatever you want. It's there.
Okay. So tell me about your new team you joined there, and who were you racing with before?
So at first, me and my brother, Chris Ritchie, we had Junior Motorsports. We just kind of did it because we're Junior fans. And we had Charles Dickey join us. Jason Wiley joined us because he worked really well with us at Daytona. We just kind of figured we were the four that really didn't have anybody. And Jason's been a great asset. Charles has too. Charles just doesn't run the full schedule. And so my brother sold his setup, focused more on family. Charles decided, because I was contemplating selling mine, so Charles jumped onto your team just to be a part of the team, make sure he had somebody. And Jason was kind of left by himself, which, like I said, I didn't go anywhere. So Jason and I were just kind of the Lone Rangers. And then Brandon's worked. We've raced around each other all year long, and he's worked well with us and stuff like that. So, we were talking with Rob after the race the other night, and Rob's like, "Are y'all teammates?" He's like, "Man, because he pushed you to the win and didn't try to jump out on you." And I was like, "No." So, but that's a good idea, though. So I hit him up and said, "Hey, man, would you like to join our team?" I said, "You've been, beating up on some of the big dogs by yourself." I said, "But if you'd like some help, we could use the help. You could use the help. We try to make it run the playoffs because we all three have a shot to be in it."
Right.
So he's like, "Yeah, man." He said, "Let's do it." He's excited about us. So he's been a good asset. We practiced yesterday a little bit, and they're practicing right now. I practiced with them before this, and it's been good. And Charles, even though he's on y'all's team, he let me in line the other day at Atlanta. We didn't have to. He's just a good guy, and
he's a great guy.
He helped out some, and he's a good teammate. And Jason really is too. Like Jason and I really work well together, and
that's cool.
We just keep it lighthearted, man. We're competitive, but yet we want to have fun.
Oh, it's got to be fun.
We figured, why not change the name? Just that way, it's all three of us had some input, and Brandon made the logo for Piston Broke and come up with the name. And Jason and I were like, "Heck, man, we enjoy it. It's funny. It looks cool." So
it looks
we're
great.
just trying to have a good time, but be competitive too.
Yeah. How did you come up with the name Piston Broke? I mean, it's a play on words. It sounds like a broken piston, but it looks like
Brandon said he found it somewhere. I don't remember where. I think he said he saw the logo somewhere and he thought it looked cool, and then he showed it to us, and we thought it looked cool. So he's like, "Man, I think that'd be pretty neat." So
it is. It's a great name. It's
we just
a great
play
sound.
on words,
Yeah, play on words. Piston Broke, and then your piston broke, and your piston you're broke. It's cool.
That's right.
And the logo is really great there. Well, I wish you guys luck coming up. So let's we're gonna jump in here and take a look at Atlanta here, and snapshot for Atlanta. It was week 10 at the Hotlanta 125, went 132 laps. We seem to be getting into a lot of green-white checkers at the ends. We had 8 cautions, 23 laps under caution, 9 lead changes over 130 laps, which is pretty good. And strength of field this week was a little higher. It's been running about 15 and change. And this week's strength of field was 16:16. Average lap time, including the cautions, was 40.528. And starting grid, I see you there, Larry. You started out at P12. How did you find your qualifying run there?
It wasn't good. So like whenever we had talked before the race, and they had asked all of us making mock qualifying runs were using the apron, and then before the race they're like, no, the white lines are out of bounds. So I didn't use it, and I found out that people in qualifying did use it. They just weren't going to use it during the race.
Gotcha.
I was like, man, I probably left a couple tenths on the table, and I didn't miss it by much. It's just I didn't use the apron, so I thought that meant qualifying too. So just to be safe, I didn't use it, and I think that really screwed me because I was really fast and single car runs, but I had to use the apron, and I didn't. So I was a little frustrated, but then I was like, really, that's not a bad place to be. And I made it
No, not really.
fourth or fifth pretty quick.
Yeah.
Just by the inside of the road didn't really get going, so I jumped down the bottom, and I got back to Jason pretty quick, and things got kind of sketchy, so I backed off.
Yeah. The top 12, I mean, I think I started at P15, and it was only a tenth and a half off from the start, so it was a pretty packed field. Dave Lamaga won the pole, followed by Nick Larson, Frank Zingen, Johnny Barker, Jason Wiley P5, Kenny Reel P6, Chris Max P7, John Bewley was P8, Matthew Fanoof was P9, Brandon Redford P10, Brandon Garand P11, and Larry P12. How many of your team were in the top 12 there?
All three of us. So I was actually the last one. So Brandon was not part of our team yet, but he was still helping us out. He started to my inside, and then Jason started, I think, P5. So all three of us were in the top 12. We were hoping to be a little closer, but we all found each other pretty quick. Like I said, Brandon and I weren't really working together. Like, we weren't even talking about working together. He just kind of stuck with me, and in the middle of the last run, trying to catch the front pack, I was running the high side trying to stay out of the cluster on the bottom, and Rob, he pulled out and said, hey, you want to dance, partner? I said, well, let's go. So I go to his back bumper, and we were holding off Chris Max and Frank Zingen, and Rob and I took off and were catching the lead pack. We had that last caution, which was Rob and Chris, but we were catching the front pack, and we were going to catch them with about 2 to go. So Rob really worked well with me and stuck with me, and I didn't leave his back bumper either. So Jason was on the bottom side behind Chris Max, so he couldn't get to me. So Rob said he'd dance, so we did. We went to the front.
There you go. And the winner of the race, of course, is our special guest tonight, Larry Murphy. And second place was Brandon Guerin. He finished about just under 2 tenths behind the leader. Larry led 4 laps. Brandon led 3. Dave Lamaga finished in third. He was half a second off the pace, and he led 66 laps last night. You see a lot of that happening this season, where somebody's leading a third or a half of the race and then doesn't get P1 up there. Chris Max finished fourth. Didn't lead any laps. He was 8 tenths of a second off. Charles Dickey, my teammate, finished in fifth. He led 4 laps. I think I led half a lap under caution. Frank Zingen was P6. He was 6.5 or almost 7 seconds off the pace, followed by Cole Jarrett in P7, Jeff Barefoot in P8, John Bewley P9, and Matthew Fanoof in P10. John Bewley led 6 laps. Now, Larry, you mentioned a couple of you guys were running solo. A huge difference running with a team when you can plan and have a conversation going on instead of just listening to race chatter, isn't it?
Absolutely. So it's kind of like we all had like a different place. So like I'm more of I can find speed just about anywhere. I just search for it. I watch videos. I can watch a YouTube video of someone running and see where they live, see where they turn in, see where they arch the car and stuff like that. Well, like Jason's good at some of that and some of the strategy. My brother Chris was the strategist. He was the one that he may not be the fastest, but he would be the one that would strategize and save tires and stuff like that. So Brandon's been really fast, and he hasn't had the wins to show for it, but he's been up front all year. So we figured, man, like he wanted someone to bounce ideas off of. We did too. And honestly, it helps all of us because we're helping each other. Like last night we had practice and I went out and set quick time. Well, Brandon tried and Jason tried to knock my time off. Well, then that made them better by trying to knock my time off. Well, then today I jumped on and I'm trying to knock their time off. Like, and we're talking to each other about what worked, what didn't. You just have three sets of eyes and ears and feels, and you know what works for one may not work for another, but you don't know until you try it. So it just gives you three people to work with, talk through the race. Like Jason and I were on two opposite ends of the field on Sunday. He was relaying to me what was going on, what was working, what wasn't, and I was doing the same thing to him. So now we have a third set of eyes, you know, that can help us out with that. And you know, Brandon already pretty much securing a spot. Who knows? Maybe he can help us secure a spot. You know, I mean, it always helps. Like you saw the Wolfpack and the Penny Stackers, everybody worked together. And that's the reason Dave led as much as he did, because they all grouped up and hooked up. Well, if we had 3 or 4 cars, maybe we could have done the same thing. It just, there's strength in numbers. And, you know, as long as everybody's got a common goal, I think it'll work out.
Right. How does when you're running with a team and you're all pretty close within, you know, let's say, I don't know, with your 4 cars, there's like 6 cars in your pack and 4 of them are your team. How does your strategy change when you're running together versus when you're spread out? What's the advantage or disadvantage to each, you think?
I think the advantage is like Atlanta, you know, it's like I said, it's pretty much super speedway, but it's tighter. Well, there's some times that I got pushed up off the bottom that I would have lost 5, 6 spots if my teammate wouldn't have been behind me. He rolled out of the throttle just enough to let me back in. Well, that so you can on each other the whole time. You just got to communicate. And like when I got to run, I'd say, "Hey, you want to go?" He's like, "No, I want to wait." Okay, no problem. Well, if I needed to get in line or he needs to get in line, I'd let him. You know. And Charles did the same thing, even though he's not our teammate anymore. He's just a good guy, but he's like, "Hey, I see you faster. I'm not gonna try to, you know, stick my nose in where it don't belong. Things are getting kind of hairy." He's like, "Hey, I'll give you some room." Well, that's give and take. And like this week at Darlington, every race I've watched at Darlington, it's gonna take give and take. If you don't, you're all gonna wad it up, and no one's gonna finish the race. So I'm hoping that this week we can use that to our advantage as well. Maybe, you know, who knows? Maybe the teammates, we can all get in a line and maybe try to hold our ground and maybe, you know, run clean for a few laps, because the whole goal is just to get to the end. I mean, you wreck on lap 5, it's not helping anybody. So
Yep, that's true. Well, speaking of getting to the end, let's take a look at the points leaders after week 10. We keep talking about Darlington. Darlington is week 11. That is the cutoff race. And we have a tie on the cutoff line right now for 2 people at P7. But I think if you looked on the Discord today, the rules are going to be if there's a tie, I think they're going to let the 8th person in and take it from there. So we talked about that in the admin meeting last night. So there's good news there. If there's a tie, I don't think anybody's going to be left out, but there's pretty strong chance there might be a tie at the end of all this too. So in P1 right now is Frank Zingen. He has 416 points and 1 win. Dave Lamaga just 1 point behind in P2 with 415. Rob Lowell not too far behind at 407. In P4 is Brandon Guerin at 406. And there's a little 20 point gap going to P5 with Johnny Barker at 386. P6 right now after 10 weeks, Chris Max with 374 points, followed by Larry Murphy, our guest here tonight, with 372 and 1 win. He's tied for P7 with John Bewley, 372 points, also 1 win, and followed by Jason Wiley with 369 points and 1 win. Brandon Redford, 353 points. Nick Larson in P11. Matthew Fanoof in P12 and Eli Raposa there in P13, actually P12. That rounds out the top racers. And after Jason Wiley, there's nobody in the top there that has a win. And there's 3 other people right up there in P4, 5, and 6 that don't have wins. So it looks like it's good. It's a pretty competitive season right there. And we're also running a Rookie of the Year this year. And I want to thank Kerry Shaver, driver of car number 18, for sponsoring the Rookie of the Year prize. At the end of the season, the rookie with the highest number of points wins a $30 prize. And that leader right now is Frank Zingen with 76 points. He's got a pretty commanding lead there, 17 points over you, Larry. And then right on your tail is John Bewley with 56, Chris Max with 53, Brandon Redford with 48, Cole Jarrett with 46. Former teammate of mine, Mike Fish, with 39, Chris Ritchie, 38, Aaron Brown, one of my teammates, with 36, Matt Fanouf, 30, Charles Dickey, my teammate, with 27, Kenny Reel, 27, Isaac, Eddie, Josh LeCare, Hunter. I don't think they race much anymore, and that rounds out the Rookie of the Year points. Once again, thanks to Riptide Radio and Jeff Barefoot for a random $5 gift card every race. At the end of the race, he spins the numbers, picks a number, and if it's yours, you get a $5 gift card so you can tune into Riptide Radio, Carolina Shag, beach music 365 days a year. And some crass commercial messages from myself here. Speaking of teams, the Joe Sixpack Racing team is looking for 2 drivers to finish out the season or join us next year. We had 2 left. We're still looking for 2 more, and there's no better thing than racing with a team. And we offer some swag, some gift bags, and Joe Sixpack Racing mugs and homebrewed coffee and stuff like that. And the top finishing driver on our team every week gets some iRacing credits there. So that's a crass commercial message from me. And now we're going to take a look at Darlington. Darlington, as we said, is the Championship 7 cutoff race. It's also our throwback week, going back to 1999 paint schemes there. We had a bunch of them from Dave Lamaga put up. A bunch of guys got them. Some did their own. And it's at Darlington. And as you know, the motto of that track is too tough to tame. There's that famous Darlington stripe. It's 140 laps, 2 quick repairs, 75% fuel, 3 tire changes. The race will be at night, 9:16 track time, 78 degrees, 55% humidity. And looking forward to that. So what's your strategy going to be for Darlington there, Larry? You still there? Oh, seems like I lost him. Well, anyway, Larry, if you can jump back on. Not sure what happened here. But...
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you now.
I don't know what happened there. Yeah, my strategy really is just to just try to survive. I mean, really, you got to be there at the end. Passing's going to be ridiculously hard. After some practice, even if your tire wear isn't that bad, which it doesn't seem to be, the car feels like it's just sliding the rear tires after 20, 30 laps. So, really just want to have a good finish and try to secure my spot in the playoffs. I really don't want to push too hard, but I don't want to fall back either, because you're going to really have a problem on starts and restarts. That's going to be the issue, because the track's really not meant to go too wide, and you just got to be some give and take. And I'm hoping that we can make that happen and try to stay out of trouble is the biggest thing. I just don't want to end my day early, because it'd be a shame to come out of the hole I did at the beginning of the year from misfortune to battling for a spot to have it end that way. So I just want to be there at the end.
Gotcha. What do you think, besides not much room for passing, what makes Darlington such a hard track? Is the stigma too tough to tame, and the Darlington stripe, is that intimidating? Is that justified? Is there a certain mystique about it, or is it really that tough a track?
It's that tough a track, and the fact is that if you're running by yourself, you'll still scrape the wall. But if you're pushing, trying to catch somebody, or you're overdrive the car, you're gonna knock the wall down. I mean, you see some of the fastest guys that we have, like they're sweating this race, and that means that they don't feel good about it. I don't know anybody that feels good about going into this race that says 100% certainty, I'm not going to hit the wall, I'm not going to wreck, because you go in 1 and 2, it's a long sweeping corner. You can make it pretty easy, but the problem is at the end of 2, the wall comes back out. Like, it comes back towards the track, so there's a hump there. Well, the car kind of steps out, and you have to try not to get too much of a low exit, because you barely clip the white line down there. It shoots you straight into the wall to where it's going to destroy your whole right front. Then you go in 3 and 4, it's not as long and sweeping. You actually have to lower yourself way down, and then coming off of 4, there's a drop off right by the wall. So you're trying to suck up to that wall and get a run off to pass somebody, but the problem is your right rear drops down, and that's when the car steps out and people hit the inside wall. So it's 2 different tracks on either end, and then you throw in the fact that you can't pass anybody. Like, you cannot. You would be hard pressed to pass someone in the corner. As long as they gave you room, you could. But with this being a cutoff race, not many people are going to give you an inch. So
not many.
It's you thought Atlanta was crazy with no room. Well, then cut that racing surface in quarters. Like, it's got a quarter of the racing.
Oh, wow.
I think there's more room on the apron at Atlanta than there is on the track at Darlington. So
yep, that's like a couple years ago. We were running at North Wilkesboro, and that was when iRacing, when you loaded in all your setups for your race on like Monday, and you go on Wednesday to have a practice race or a session with your team or whatever, using what you thought were the setups, and iRacing was not saving all your setups. Well, I know for a fact, because Sunday mornings, before we were racing at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoons, I would be down here at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, checking the setups, going over them on my laptop, then on my rig, and double and triple checking and making sure they were ready. And happened to be not around on Sunday afternoon, because it was I was away for, I think, down for one of my parents' anniversaries or their birthdays or something, and I start getting messages on my phone that somehow the full course cautions were turned off, and it wasn't counting. I don't know what it was, but anyway, something was going on where I forget what the setup was, but cautions were turned off. No, they weren't. Something was going on where, the caution laps were not counted in the race. So like 45 minutes into the race, they had only completed 10 laps because there were so many cautions. That's what it was. So that was a nightmare at North Wilkesboro then. So did you pick out a paint scheme for this weekend yet?
Yep, I'm actually keeping with kind of Richard Childress Racing, because I usually run the GM Goodwrench Dale Senior paint scheme, okay, black and silver. So I picked Mike Skinner's number 31 Lowe's blue and yellow. So
cool.
Obviously it's got my number 30 on it, but it looks great. Dave really did a good job.
Yeah. Well, if you want to watch the race this weekend, we broadcast live every weekend on Extreme Dirt TV, or Extreme Sim TV. I'm sorry about that. And you can check out our Facebook page, where we'll throw up the link to the race. And we're checking out a couple. Number 21 is running an old Winston scheme, and there's also someone running TV Guide. And number 82 is running an old John Deere scheme there. I want to thank Dave Lamaga from DTL Customs and Custom Designs and Graphics, who does all our promo work, our league calendars, the schedule, all the graphics for promoting the races. Good work there, and heck of a job, because he had to coordinate who's getting what paint scheme and email them. And then apparently there was some changes in the design of the cars this past setup or download, or whatever you want to call it there, and some of the paint schemes didn't match. So he said, email them back to me, and I'll fix them for you. So big thanks there to Dave Lamaga at DTL Customs and Graphics. Does some really nice work there. And once again, you're listening to the 802 Cup Series podcast with yours truly, Greg Dreiss, every Tuesday night generally. We review the past week's race. We talk to people on our team, other teams in the league. We had Justin Clapper a couple weeks ago, who was the rear tire changer for Zane Smith, the Truck Series champion in NASCAR, and he did his second year of the 24 Beers of Daytona, and that's always a great time when he comes on. So, in closing, I want to thank Larry Murphy for stopping by tonight, and wish Piston Broke Motorsports best of luck this weekend, this coming Sunday, because we don't have any skin in the game at Joe Sixpack Racing, but we'll be there getting in everybody's way, not just anybody individual. So, Larry, thanks for stopping by. It was great talking with you tonight. Congratulations on your win at Atlanta, and good luck with you and your team at Darlington.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. So we'll catch you on the track. And once again, this is the 802 Cup Series podcast. And thanks again to Larry Murphy from Piston Broke Motorsports for stopping by tonight. And great win and at Atlanta. If you want to catch the 802 Cup Series podcast, it is on Twitch right now. It'll be up on Twitch for the next 2 weeks. You can catch us on YouTube tomorrow. And if you want to just pick up the audio, it will be on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and all the other major podcast platforms. Have yourself a good night. And once again, this has been the 802 Cup Series podcast, and we'll catch you on the track.